Alright guys, welcome back for another video. Have been slacking on our S13 a bit, but got a bit of progress done. Turned out to be a lot more welding than we had thought. But we had Peyton out here with the 300ZX, big body guy. He's been smoothing out all of our seams and everything, making this look good for when we paint it. We do still have to make the body mounts for our fenders and hood. Still waiting on SR stuff. So in the meantime, I actually did sell the Link Fury out of my chaser, and we did a little upgrade. So now we have the new Link Neo 4 Voodoo. Got a little magnetic box, so we'll do a whole little unboxing here. Have your ECU. Set this on car for now, and see what comes in the box. So you have like your Wi-Fi antennas. This does have Wi-Fi and GPS now. Here is your GPS pad, some mounting hardware, and your tuning cable. So you don't need the tuning cable once this is all set up. You can connect via Wi-Fi. These are going to plug in to these little brass ports here. It's near the same pinout as the Fury. This does have built-in wideband. So the first wiring change I ended up making was on your A connector here. It used to only have one power input, but now it does use a switched power input too, so I just spliced into that with how this is wired. We might be able to get away with just reassigning all the inputs on our tune, but we may still have to move stuff around because of the drive-by-wire pairing. Our aux 9 and 10 did move, so I think that's the only issue we're going to have, but once I get into reassigning everything, see what we can do with this, we should be good. And this does have like multi-purpose pins now. They're called audio pins. So it's going to be analog, digital input, and auxiliary outputs as a single pin in the ECU rather than needing specific pins, which there still are some, but now it's a lot more multi-purpose. You can get away with a lot more, and like disable pull-ups on your temp inputs and just weird stuff like that. Alright, so first we put our GPS over here on our windshield, just routed the wire down through the edge here, and then by here we're just going to wrap this up, plug this in, and kind of get an idea of where it's going to fit, because the ECU needs to fit down here behind the radio. It's kind of a dumb spot from Toyota, but that's where they put it. So going to try to fit everything down in there. This is a little smaller than the Fury, so shouldn't have an issue because that fit down there as well. So these little brass ports, they do look the same. The left is going to be for your Wi-Fi. This is going to be for your GPS. This one right here is Ethernet. You're not probably going to need that in most cases. The ECU uses USB-C now to connect, so this is going to be your main connection port in the middle. Alright, so now it's all loosely hooked up. We're going to plug in the Wi-Fi, or turn on the car, connect to it, start reassigning stuff, and make sure this thing still runs properly. So I just noticed a small issue I did. When I pre-wired this for the extra switched 12 volt that this needed, I did look at the wrong connector, and I was offset one pin, and I was going into a temp input, but then I checked on this plug, which is what it's supposed to be into, I was actually missing the 12 volt input on this plug entirely. So looks like the 14 volt on the E throttle pin was powering the whole ECU, so we added two more lines onto this. We're going to pin them into both the 12 volt ports on here, and we should be good. And we might have to recalibrate our drive-by wire now, since should have less of a voltage issue, and that'll fix that up. So pin these in, punch down these connectors, and then this should power up with the key on. The ECU will now be powered by USB power as well, so you could bench flash these, but to check that your wiring's fine, this should come on with the key on. There you have it, key on. USB is not even in right now, so we do know our wiring is good now. So now we can connect over, hook up to our laptop, and start reassigning the I/O. Alright, so I think I have everything all assigned correctly. We're going to key it on. Our tack sweep works. We hear other stuff going. So now we do have to recalibrate our E throttle. So we'll come over to our E throttle page, and we're going to calibrate our pedal first. Press it all the way down, hit next, release, next, And then we're going to want to calibrate our E throttle again. So we're probably going to have to retune this as well. We just have to set our error voltages again. So we'll just max that out so it can't error during this setup. And then we'll be able to reset that. So just a few setting changes that you'll have to go back through, but it's not too big of a deal. And our polarity is reversed, so we can come up here and switch our active state, and that should solve that. And then we can recalibrate our throttle again and then see if it works. And that's all calibrated, so we're going to want to clear our faults at the top and make sure that nothing else is erroring. So no errors, no fault codes, and this should be good to go. So I'm going to open the garage up and we'll try to test start this. Alright, so here's our first go. I didn't test this beforehand, everything's still cold, so hopefully it starts. That's all good. We do have an error for our, looks like, oil pressure. So we'll double check that's all good. We might have a bad sensor. The voltage there did max out on our audio pin. So we might have to replace that. It's no big deal, but our car is running again, so that's good. We can start driving this. It's been down for a couple of weeks. Paint should be coming over soon. We're gonna get that knocked out and we can start mocking up the panels and get ready for primer and paint. Alright, so the other cool thing with this is the Wi-Fi, as I mentioned. So you'll see that here, and you can just come over here and enable it. So that's gonna need a power cyclet. You'll want to store this first. Switch it off, switch it back on, and now you're gonna have, you can display it or invisible as far as your connection. If you want an SSID, which is just gonna be your network name, you can name it your car, whatever you want. Set a password because you don't want random people connecting to your ECU and messing with your tune or stealing your intellectual property if you want to get into all that. But yeah, set this up here and then we'll move over to our GPS setup. Alright, so here in your GPS menu, in your ECU settings, you just come right under your network folder here. It's going to say GPS. You'll click that. If you already have one on CAN, you can use that, but we are using our internal. So we're going to set up that. Your time zone offset, I believe Chicago is going to be like -6, which I'll have to check that those are off the same thing. So we can just click here and see where it wants for the time zone offset. But yeah, that doesn't really matter too much. And then just your source. So you're either going to have the PC link source or the GPS time of what the satellite's at, or it's going to be at the computer's time here for the the PC link. So these settings don't really matter, but you can have that. And then just on your speed sources under your chassis and body, you can set that up and use your GPS as the input. So you'll go down to speed sources and you can set it up under your wheels or a GP input under the digital inputs. So here under your setup tab, you're going to want to, if you do use your GPS speed on here, we're going to set it under our driven speed source because here it states your driving wheels. That's going to be what's driving the car, whether it's front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, whatever is not being driven by the engine. That way, if you do have a secondary on the rear, you can calculate the difference of speed for traction controls. And then your acceleration source, you can also use either. we can try out and see how our GPS speed works for accelerometer, because that is built in. We can see our axis rates and see how fast the car is accelerating with that as well. Alright, car's running over here. We got our live data. We'll see how far we can go before we lose Wi-Fi connection. So obviously no cable, and we're still connected, going all the way down the alley. And we'll just see how far this goes. We're still probably 100 feet away. We'll just walk back. But yeah, I mean, these go pretty far for the Wi-Fi signal. So pretty good. You could do it from the pits on like your high-end race cars, especially if there's like hot pits where you can't easily access it while people are changing tires or refueling. So yeah, now we can get back into cleaning up the floorboard over here, tucking in all of our wiring in the ECU, and get back to the S13. Got our glove box area all cleaned up now, and yeah, just got to fill this thing up on fuel, give it a car wash. It's all dusty from all the body work, but we'll wait till this is all done. But yeah, a little closer up thing. Just have a small corner here. This is all filled out. Couple things on the inside I got to grind, but all mostly good. Stripped down this stock engine bay paint, just little things here and there. So hopefully we do get this done today. We have Travis bringing our extra paint, I believe, tomorrow, so that we can paint match the bay to the same red, have it all match to the car. Have our bed liner here on top. That's going to go on the inside just to help like all the rock chips and everything. But yeah, this is still a beater drift car, so we're not trying to like make it too nice to a show car. Just something to look decent when the motor gets in here and kind of contrast everything. All right, so we got a little side quest here, taking a little stroll. Bought a car a few months ago, another import, and I'll drop the guy's info. Danny from Fed Legal Imports messaged me earlier, asked me for my phone number, and didn't know the car got picked up yet, and apparently it's going to be here today. So we're walking down the alley here, gonna go meet him up at a larger lot for unloading. It's on a semi, so we'll pop over there and show you guys what the new car is. So just another R34 Skyline, so same as the red one, but this one is a factory EV1 car, so these are only 20 of these ones made, and it is an all-wheel drive and manual coupe as well. So it does not have the Altia wing, which we do have at the house for this. We do need to get it paint matched, but otherwise should be pretty good so far. And just about to unload it and we'll take it on a ride.
You can do it.
Yes, right side three.
Yeah, so already this one feels a lot different than the other one. Steering's a lot more heavy. Engine might be lacking a little bit of power. But we're gonna fill up on fuel because at the port they send these really low on fuel. just for fire hazard reasons. So I'll get a fresh tank of US fuel in it and try to take it on a little road cruise real quick. Alright guys, we found some Japanese newspaper. Got a great wave over here. Little cartoon. Cat. I forgot this guy's name. That's a character. Hearing aid for when you put your big fart cannons on your import cars, your Hondas. Cool beans. Alright, let's take this thing on a test drive and see how it does. Apparently we got some wheel slip in there. Yeah, this thing's definitely a dog. Gotta wake it up with some power. End up putting a turbo on this. Yeah, so it's just about as slow as the other one. Gonna end up putting a turbo setup on this. Don't know if we're gonna do like a budget, like factory style turbo where it's just like the stock Neo turbo and maybe a different center cartridge. Definitely a lot slower than the other one too, but about the same overall. The clutch does feel a bit heavier than the other, same with the steering. So we don't know if we maybe need alignment, the tires, whatever. Still have to go over everything, but seems drivable for the most part. Could be a daily. Just waiting for the paperwork to come in the mail. And yeah, it looked like the brake fluid was new. Got some okay stopping power, but we'll have to change those over to like Z32 brakes as well. So we'll just pop this around and take it home, get it in the garage, and maybe throw it on the lift. All right, got it back into the garage now. Definitely smells a lot like clutch, and with it being a little rougher taking off and the slipping, that may be what's going on. So may have to do a nice clutch job in this, which it's a pain with the all-wheel drive, but what do you think of the car? All right, so next day, we just got the car registered, headed back home, got the little temp plate on. Now, first word of business for this is to get some tunes in it. Have this old little Japanese radio, makes a bunch of little things going on. But yeah, they only go up to like 89 FM, and there's no like Bluetooth or USB or anything, obviously, because it's so old. So I'm gonna pop a double DIN in there, grab a spare harness, show you guys how to wire that in if it is all like hacked or using any of the stock wiring at all. So I'm just gonna grab that at Best Buy real quick and pop back in the car. Alright, so we went to Best Buy, we picked up this Sony radio here. I wanted something with kind of tactile buttons for the volume because like the touchscreen ones are kind of iffy sometimes. Kind of wanted the one with the twist knob, but the other one with the twist knob volume, that did not have wireless CarPlay, so we just opted for this little more expensive one, and it does have like AV inputs, which will help later if we do expand our system. As for the harness that you're going to use with your R34, this is the part number. I know on the last car that I did, it was missing one pin in the harness. It could have been a manufacturer defect, or just this Skyline's different than like the US Nissans. So when we get into it, I'll show you how to wire that in. We will double check all of our wires to make sure everything goes to something, and yeah, it's pretty simple. So we'll start, I believe we just take off the shift knob. Haven't done this in a little bit. And then basically work our way up from the center console. And that should pull up. And just spin that out of the way. And Then this upper vent should come out like this, which I noticed this was loose the other night, or last night as well. So then you're going to unhook your hazard button, and then there should be screws for this whole section, but it looks like there's not even screws in here, so I will have to get some screws. Most interior screws are about the same as well, so I'll jump clip over to when I got this out. Alright, we got our upper vent panel out, and then this is supposed to be bolted to the center section as well. This is also missing the bolts, or the screws rather. So we're going to have to find a lot more little guys like that. I should have them, so that should be fine. And we're just going to pull out this thing that's super heavy and get into all this wiring down here. So this is going to be a radio plug. Missing, what is this, a ground? Yeah, there's some labels. It's in Japanese. We're really not going to use any of this, and we're going to try to clean up a lot of it. But this is your main connector, which it already looks like it's broke as well. They got some other nonsense in here, and a bunch of just crazy wiring going on. So hopefully we can clean this up pretty good, and the new one will work a lot better. Alright, yoinked out this guy, pulled out the radio. So the ground that I did find was for the little toll pass down on the side. So I don't really have to worry about this wire. We can stick it on there. But now most of the wiring's all cleaned up, and we can just verify that our harness has all the same matching pins, or if we have to pull some out of this harness. Okay, so we do have a home for all the wires. As you can see, all these are populated except for these bottom two. So then if we come over here, these are empty. And then on our new harness here, only this bottom right one is not populated. And then we flip it over, and that one's empty too. So it looks like my first Skyline, I might have just got a defective harness, but now we know we have all of our wires. We can unbox our radio, and the colors are going to match up directly. It's going to be pretty simple. And we're just going to use our normal crimp and heat shrink like usual. And yeah, then I'll just all pop back in. Alright, here's our new sub harness. We're going to tape this all together, but as you can see, everything's crimped and heat shrinked. We don't have a bunch of these vampire splices, whatever you want to call them. And then we just have to terminate our ground as well, and we can tap into this other ground for the little toll reader guy. And then we can start putting this thing back together and test it out. And now here we got it all wrapped up, a lot more compact, not going to be in the way. Gotta seat these in all the way before we tuck it all away. And then just put our ring terminal on, and we can either ground it somewhere in the back or down by the shifter. It doesn't really matter as long as you have a solid ground. And then we have like our other little stuff connecting to the radio, our back USB-C. We have a microphone for the talking, and then I believe this is an antenna, which we're going to have to fish down, and we can run it up on the dash or the windshield, and that'll be our new antenna. So alright, so everything's all hooked up. Just loosely put it up, and we'll see if it turns on now. I do have the microphone mounted here. We put the GPS over here. This actually isn't the antenna, and then we just kind of went around the side, under here, and through the middle. So we wired it correctly, we hear sound, and yeah, we can hook up to our Bluetooth. We got that hooked back up now. So let's see how we set it up. We're going to check this, and I'll just bump over, connect over to it, and that way you guys don't get to see all this setup. Alright, so now we got everything going. This does have Apple CarPlay wireless, so just in Spotify here, whatever I was listening to at the time, setting all this up, and we can get a quick crank, see how the speakers sound overall. Yeah, seems the speakers are a lot better than the other Skyline so far. Won't know until we fully crank this up, but we did put the AV wires in, so in case we put in the subs, we will be good. Because this is going to be more of the street car. The red one is getting a full GTR like race car build, but that will also have literally everything done to it. But as for now, this is going to be like more of the budget build. Alright, we can't forget to bolt back on our HVAC unit, and now everything should just kind of fall right into place. So we'll just pop this back in there, We got to plug in our hazards. There was this extra plug down here. I do forget what this goes to, but I didn't unplug it right now. There's no extra switches on the back here, and I don't believe there's any in the back of the HVAC that we were missing. So, yeah, extra plug. You can check it out later, but we'll get this all buttoned up. And here's the fully installed look. Nice clean thing, no gaps or anything. And I believe this is actually clipping in a lot better now because it fell out last night. Yeah, so that's all good. Tunes are going good. Yeah. We just got to clean up the rest of the interior now from registration, extra books that came with the radio. Get this one out down here. And then, yeah, we still have to get over to the S13, finish that up as we were going over in the beginning of the video. But we got our surprise car delivery, so we might as well work on it a little bit and make it a little bit better to drive. Alright, so now we are going to start getting the S13 all cleaned up here. Paint and stuff is still here for the body working, but we got to finish that. Now I just got to grab the hood over here. We're going to center this up first and then work our fenders on, lights and everything. So first things first, you start with the hood and then work your way out. Alright, hood's mounted up, looks pretty centered now. So now we just need to kind of mark where our pins are going to go. If you can see in there, this one's kind of like in the front of this pipe. And then this one kind of lands right on the back side of it. So it's going to be uneven on both, but I have some tube. I'm going to probably just notch out a small little half circle or something. And then we can weld in that tube and weld in washers on each side. And then that should kind of set, and we can go up and down with the height because we do have these adjustable pins here, so pretty long length, shouldn't be an issue. Alright, so now we got our little notch here. I'll show you how the tube is going to slot in there now. So obviously I have to trim it, just clean up these edges, but this is going to essentially slide into here. And then we're going to have a washer welded on top and bottom for the adjuster nuts. And yeah, pretty simple. I'll bust out the grinder, we'll clean this up, and we'll make our first stub. Alright, so here's what the piece is going to look like. Just washer welded on each end. And then we're going to stick it in that hole we just drilled. And we can loosely fit the pins on the hood. Drop this in. Tack weld it from the bottom side. And then it'll be the perfect positioning. Because sometimes when you try to put these in factory core supports, there might be a slight tilt to your hood. And it's kind of hard to always align these within the pins, no matter like what your setup is. So this should hopefully give us the exact angle we need to be able to mount this in perfectly. Alright, so I loosely set this in here. I hit it with a hammer, and as you can see, with the slight angle of the hood, This wanted to angle a little bit to stay centered. So there's just a small little bit at the top, little gap, but this is all really tight here, so we can get some welds in. And then when we unhook this latch, this isn't gonna move obviously. And then we can just take it all back apart, put our washers and nuts on, and set the height once we get the other side on as well. Alright, got it tacked in, and now we can actually put the hood up and weld this out better. Alright, had it a little bit tied up when I pulled out the pin, and everything kind of shifted this way. So I just recut this, and we're just re-welding it back into place now. Alright, so here's kind of what we're working with. Just had to fill that big gap up top. We can grind that, but otherwise it's all TIG welded in. Got to finish the bottom, but don't want to get too repetitive with everything, so we'll jump over to both sides done, and then we can start getting on fitting the fenders. Alright, we got our second hood pin all tacked up. The MIG is being a little stupid. I do need new tips. We're using the wrong tip for that. So we're just going to call this one out, finish up the video here, and come back for a part 2 when we start mocking up the rest of the body parts and finish smoothing out the bay. So we'll catch you guys in the next one.